Good morning, class. This is June 19. I want to give a shout out to Miss Cindy Johnson, or Dr. Johnson, and Miss Donna Lola for helping me get set up this morning. This morning, we're going to look at Chapter 8, which deals with principles of exercise training. Previous chapters, we looked at acute response to exercise, which covers the body's immediate response to a single exercise bout. Now, in Chapter 8, we're going to be concerned with how the body responds to repeated bouts of exercise performed over a period of time, exercise training. When one performs regular exercise over a period of days, weeks, and months, a variety of psychological adaptations occur. The positive adaptations that accompany proper training principles lead to improvement in both exercise capacity and sport performance. Resistance training, muscles become stronger. With aerobic training, the heart and lungs become more efficient in oxygen delivery, and exercise endurance increases. With high intensity anaerobic training, the neuromuscular, metabolic, and cardiovascular systems adapt to generate more ATP per unit of time. Thus increasing muscle endurance and speed of movement over short periods of time. These adaptations are highly specific to the type of training performed. Chapter, before looking at specific adaptations in training, we're going to look at some basic terminology and general principles used in exercise training. And then we're going to give an overview of the elements of proper training program. The first term that we're going to look at today is what we call muscular endurance. So when you look at muscular endurance, what do you feel that muscular endurance is? Textbook defines muscle endurance as the maximum force that a muscle or muscle group can generate. So let's repeat that definition again. Muscle endurance is the maximum force that a muscle or muscle group can generate. that term is called muscular strength. I said muscular endurance, but we're looking at muscular strength. So the definition of muscular strength is the maximum force that a muscle group can generate. That is the definition for muscular strength. Let's look at someone with the maximum capacity to bench press 100 pounds. Now that's 220 pounds. Has twice the strength of someone who can bench press 50 kg. Now 50 kg stands for 110 pounds. Now in this example, strength can be defined as the maximum weight the individual can lift with one single effort. This is referred to as one repetition maximum, or IRM. Determine IRM in the weight room or fitness center, people select a weight that they know they can lift at least one time. After a proper warm-up, they try to execute several repetitions. If they can perform more than one repetition, they add weight and try again to execute several repetitions. This continues until the person is unable to lift the weight more than a single repetition. Next terminology that we will look at is what we call muscular power. Muscular power is defined as the rate at which work is performed, thus the product of force and velocity. So we'll repeat that definition. Muscular power is the rate at which work is performed, thus the product force and velocity. Now, let's see, we're looking at, unlike strength, it has a speed component. So we're saying that muscular power has a speed component. Muscle power, generally referred to simply as power, is the explosive aspect of strength. The product of strength and the velocity of movement. Power equals force times distance slash time, where force equals strength and distance slash time equals velocity. This is an example of muscular power. Two individuals and each bench press 200 kg, which averages to 441 pounds, moving the weight the same distance, where the bar touches the chest to full extension of the arms. But the person who can do it at one has twice the power of the individual takes two to perform the lift. Although absolute strength is an important component of performance, muscular power is the functional application of both speeds of movement. It is a key component in almost every sport and competitive activity. Football, for example, an offensive lineman with a bench press IRM or 200 kg, which is 441 pounds, may be unable to control a defensive lineman with a bench press IRM of only 150 kg, which is 330 pounds. If the defensive lineman can move his IRM at a much faster speed, defensive lineman at 50 kg, which is 100 pounds, stronger, but the defensive lineman's faster speed, coupled with adequate strength, could give him the performance edge. Let's look at depend on the muscle's ability to repeatedly develop or sustain sub-maximal force or do both. The ability to perform repeated muscle contraction or to sustain a contraction over time is, as we said earlier, muscular endurance. Some examples of muscular endurance include performing sit-ups or push-ups, or sustaining force in an attempt to pin an opponent in wrestling. Muscular endurance is increased through gains in muscular strength and through changes in local blood flow and metabolic functions. So you see on the slide here, it says that muscular endurance is increased through gains in muscular strength, changes in local metabolic and cardiovascular functions. Aerobic power. Aerobic power is defined as the rate of energy released by oxygen-dependent metabolic processes. Now, another way we can define that is released by cellular metabolic processes that depend on the continued availability of oxygen. Also include that aerobic power is synonymous with the term aerobic capacity and maximum oxygen uptake. We look at VO2 max. Maximum aerobic power is the highest oxygen uptake that an individual can obtain during dynamic exercise using large muscle groups for a few minutes. Power or aerobic capacity can be tested in a lab or estimated from a wide variety of field tests. Next term is anaerobic power. Anaerobic power is the rate of energy released by oxygen-independent metabolic processes. Now, these metabolic processes function without the involvement of oxygen. This is the difference between the anaerobic power and the aerobic power. maximum anaerobic power or anaerobic capacity is defined as the maximum capacity of the anaerobic system, ATP, phosphocreatine, PCR system, and the anaerobic glycolytic system, which produces the ATP. Unlike the situation with aerobic power, there is no universal accepted laboratory test to determine anaerobic power. Now you can use the Wingate anaerobic test. General principles of training. The first principle is going to be the principle of individuality. Now what this principle states is that not all athletes are created equal and that genetics affects performance. You have variations in cell growth rates, metabolism, and cardiorespiratory and neuroendocrine regulation. Not all athletes are created equal. What we're saying here is that individuals do not all possess the same ability to respond to acute exercise bouts or the same capacity to adapt to exercise training. Now the genetics, we want to look at heredity plays a major role in determining the body's response to a single bout of exercise as well as the chronic changes that result from a training program. Now, except for identical twins, no two people have exactly the same genetic characteristics, so individuals are unlikely to exhibit the same responses. Variation in cell growth, we're looking at the statement that individual variation. You want to ask the question why some people show great improvement as participating in a given program. Now what that means, you have high responders, whereas other experience little or no change after following the same program. This is what we call low responders. This deals with your individual variations. According to the principle of specificity, exercise adaptations are specific to the mode, intensity, and duration of training, and the training program must stress the psychological systems that are critical for optimal performance in a given sport in order to achieve specific training adaptations and goals. Principle is the principle of progressive overload. And we're going to look at two important concepts in the principle of progressive overload. One is overload and progressive training. According to the principle of progressive overload, systematically increasing demands of the body is necessary for continued improvement. So what we're saying is that the must increase demands on body to make further improvements. The muscle overload. The muscles must be loaded beyond normal loading for improvement.
Yes, sir, with good language. Class. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank y'all so very much. Thank you so very much for coming, and thank you, Ms. Damaloka, for Damalola, you know, I'm still trying to pronounce her name, and she's bearing with me. Say your name, darling, for me.
Damilola Shaliki.
Damaloka Shaliki.
Okay.
And she has really helped me to get started on this review. So thank y'all so very much. We will do the review beginning now. So let us start with chapter 2. We're doing a review on chapter 2. So we're talking about the biological development in infancy and childhood. So finger-like projections called fimbriae at the end of the fallopian tube draw the egg into the tube. The genetic material in the egg and sperm combine to form a single cell called a zygote, or a zygote. So it is true that teenage mothers account for over 10% of all United States births. Symptoms of toxemia include high blood pressure, rapid weight gain, fluid retention, protein in the urine, and it causes death. And it can cause death. So it needs to be treated and need to be diagnosed. So you need to make sure that you check with your family physician concerning rapid weight gain or high blood pressure and fluid retention, or if you have fluid or protein in your urine. You need to check for this disease to make sure that you can control it so that it won't cause you to die. So there are 3 stages in labor, and the longest stage is the first stage. Babies born with their heads emerging first is referred to as a vertex presentation. The maximum APAR score possible is 10. Approximately 1 in every 12 babies born in the United States has a low birth rate. I'm going to repeat that. Approximately 1 in every 10 babies born in the United States has a low birth weight. Proximal distal development refers to the tendency to develop aspects of the body trunk first and then later master manipulation of the body extremities. A child is usually able to crawl well by the age of 1 year. Now, if the child is not crawling well by the age of 1 year, you may want to consult the pediatrician to see if there's some type of abnormality developing with the child or in the child. At 18 months, children's vocabularies consist of more than 3 but less than 50 words. That's when they're a year and 8 months. Or a year and 6 months would be like a year and a half, 18 months. So they'll be able to start talking, saying about 3 words but less than 50 words. So they can say more than 3 but less than 50. By age 3, children can use the toilet by themselves, although they frequently ask someone to go with them, with accidents only occasionally happening at night. And that is called potty training. And 4-year-old children are in the process of separating from their parents and begin to prefer the company of other children over adults. At 5 years old, the pictures children draw, although simple, are finally recognizable. dominance of the left or right hand becomes well established. 6 to 8-year-olds can begin to use trust with an allowance. They are able to go to school or to friends' homes alone, go to bed alone, and get up by themselves during the night to go to the bathroom. In Harris versus McCrae, the Supreme Court confirmed that Congress and individual states could legally refuse to pay for abortions. And that fight is going on until this day in all the states. Poland prohibits abortions. It is true regarding embryonic stem cell research that individual states have the authority to pass laws to permit research using state funds. And the problem with this is that they're using embryonic stem cells or embryonic cells, which means they're using what they call unborn children, embryos. And the church is fighting against this because they said that life begins when a child is conceived. Some states say after the first trimester or during the first 6 weeks, life begins. So there's a lot of fights going on, disputes going on over abortion and to women's rights for their own body. Approximately 88% of all abortions are performed at or before 12 weeks gestation, or before the 12 weeks the baby starts falling. It is true that less than 20% of women having abortions have incomes below the federal poverty line. The following is true about vacuum aspiration. The procedure is used up to 16 weeks after a missed period. Mistletoe, formerly referred to as RU486, triggers a deterioration of the uterine lining and was approved by the United States Federal Drug Administration for use as an abortion drug in 2000. Ectopic pregnancy is a condition where a fertilized egg implants itself somewhere other than in the uterus. A lot of times the egg is implanted in the hips. You hear that some people carry the baby in their hip, and therefore it's difficult to know that they are pregnant. The pelvic inflammatory disease is an infection of the female reproductive tract that can cause inflammation and scar tissue that block tubes. In other words, if they receive this inflammatory disease and they get scar tissue from it, they may not be able to deliver a baby from the vagina. They may have to have what they call a cesarean birth. In the zygote intrafallopian transfer procedure, eggs and sperms are first combined in a laboratory dish and then immediately transferred to the fallopian tube. Sometimes they have what they call in vitro sterilization of birth. That's laboratory birth. Okay, so this concludes our lecture on chapter 2 for the review. This is a review lecture, and we're going to be doing this all week. and we're going to make sure that you get all your reports in. Please have all your reports in to me and upload them on the PowerPoint presentation for each chapter, each assignment that was given to you in JIGS. If you go to handout, you will see your assignments, and you are to upload them into coursework as part of your presentation, PowerPoint presentation. I need you to do that so you can get a grade. Remember, final grades are coming out next week, so all your work needs to be done by this week so that I can start working on your grades. So, thank you very much. I'm glad we've had this time together, and I hope to hear and see you tomorrow, which is Wednesday, the 20th. Same time, 1 o'clock. Thank you, and God bless.